Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Nebeski, and I'm the president of the Canadian Liver Foundation, and I'm thrilled to be here today to co-present the CLF Castle Gold Medal Award. Over 50 years ago, the Canadian Liver Foundation was the first organization in the world committed to promoting liver health and fighting for liver disease through research and education. In keeping with our pioneering mandate, the CLF has established a Gold Medal Award in 1983 to recognize doctors and scientists who have made significant contributions to moving the field of liver research forward. Since 1996, it has been our honor to jointly present this award with CASL. The CLF CASL Gold Medal recipients comprise of an impressive list of internationally recognized liver specialists. The knowledge gained from the collective research of these individuals has provided the CLF with the information we need to help improve the lives of Canadians living with or who are at risk for liver disease. We are pleased to present the 2021 CLF CASL Gold Medal Award to Dr. Samuel Lee, Professor of Medicine at the University of Calgary and a leading Canadian clinician scientist in the field of hepatology, who exemplifies what it means to be a multifaceted liver health champion. In a moment, you will hear from two members of CASL who will provide you with an impressive roster of academic, clinical, and research achievements. But first, I would like to take a moment and thank Dr. Lee for his decades of support of the CLF. Sam was a volunteer member of the CLF National Board of Directors from 1997 until 2002. During that time, and carrying on today, Sam continues to support not only the national initiatives of the CLF, but also the local liver health and patient support programs in Calgary. Sam has been a champion for liver health in Canada, as well as a champion for the Canadian Liver Foundation. And for that, we are extremely grateful. And now I would like to ask Dr. Carla Coffin to say a few words on behalf of CASL. Carla?
Thank you, Jennifer. So, welcome everybody. My name is Carla Coffin and I'm a hepatologist from the University of Calgary. And it's my pleasure to co-present this award along with the Canadian Liver Foundation as the CASL Education Committee Chair. So Sam has many notable achievements in hepatology. He is considered the founding father of cirrhotic cardiomyopathy and cardiovascular complications in liver disease, a condition that was rarely recognized or appreciated until he began his research. Since then, many clinician scientists have continued his pioneering work. His many contributions nationally and internationally include past president of the Canadian Association for the Study of the Liver, the International Association for the Study of the Liver, the International Ascites Club, editor-in-chief in Liver International, and I could continue on. More recently, he has dedicated his clinical work in Alberta, including in hepatitis C and expanding hepatitis C care to Indigenous communities in partnership with the Indigenous Strategic Clinical Network. On a personal note, Sam is a founder of the Calgary Liver Unit. He is the first bona fide hepatologist in Calgary. And I had the pleasure of meeting him back in 2001 when I left Newfoundland and finished medical school and moved to Calgary to do internal medicine residency. My former mentor, Professor Thomas Michalak, said, you should look up this hepatologist when you move to Calgary. And it's been Sam has been a great support and a mentor to me over the years. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we can't present this award in person, even though we live in the same city. But I would also want to welcome you all and virtually present this award to Professor Sam Lee. Now, I think you're supposed to show the award, right, Sam?
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, if we could all join virtually in presenting this year's gold medal to Dr. Lee. Congratulations, Sam.
Congratulations. Thank you. And this is it. And I'll pretend that you're sort of virtually here. It's like the holographic deck on Star Trek that your holographic images are giving me this. So it's a very pretty plaque and a great gold medal. And I'm very happy and honored, humbled to receive this award. I do want to say thanks in return to both CASL and CLF, and CLF the latter because I would not be a hepatologist today if it weren't for CLF, who funded my research fellowship to go to Paris to train under Didier Lebrec many years ago. So that was CLF that was responsible, and I will always remain eternally grateful. And as for CASL, what a great thing it is to be part of this fantastic brotherhood and sisterhood of Canadian hepatologists who we punch way above our weight in terms of academic output. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be a member of this great society, and to receive this award is just, I was going to say I'm speechless, but I'm not quite, almost speechless. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Obrigado. 감사합니다.
Well, before Sam starts his presentation today, his gold medal lecture, we want to invite Dr. Paul Adams to also share some final words on Sam Lee. Oh.
Hello there, my name is Paul Adams, and I'm broadcasting from London, Ontario, and it is my honor today to introduce the gold medal winner, Dr. Sam Lee. Sam grew up in Newfoundland from a strong Korean family. He graduated with a medical degree from Memorial University in Newfoundland. He went on to do internal medicine in Toronto and gastroenterology in Toronto. A turning point in Sam's career was when he undertook a research fellowship in Paris, France, under the aegis of Professor Didier Lebrec. He has been a professor of medicine at the University of Calgary and has spent his entire career at that institution. Here's Sam with his mother as a young lad, and he was a handsome one right from the start. And here's Sam at age 8, obviously a serious student. Sam wanted to be a chess master, but had to give some other thoughts to a career. Here he's seen a family gathering and with one of the grandchildren. Sam likes graduating, and he was very proud of his 3 boys during their graduation. The 2 boys on either side are twins. And Sam puts a big effort into spending a lot of time doing fun things with his boys. One of Sam's claims to fame is his research in the area of cirrhotic cardiomyopathy, and he has described the interaction of heart disease in patients with mostly chronic liver disease. Sam organized the 2005 and co-organized the 2019 definition criteria meetings. He's written the most cited review in Hepatology, 1996. He's an international expert and speaker, and has spoken in an impressive 60 countries on this important topic. He has contributed basic and clinical observations that have advanced this field. Sam has an excellent H-index of 68, which is largely related to his many cited publications in his chosen area of research. He has 251 peer-reviewed publications in major journals such as Hepatology, Journal of Hepatology, Gastroenterology, American Journal of Physiology, and Lancet. This is not Sam's first rodeo. He has previously won gold medals from Queen Elizabeth and from the Canadian Liver Foundation. Sam became the editor of the journal Liver International. He served as the editor-in-chief from 2008 to 2013. He was the first Canadian editor. Its impact factor rose from 2.2 to 4.3 during his tenure. He improved the interface between Canadian hepatology and international liver disease experts. Sam contributed to build the International Association for the Study of the Liver, IASL, which has improved the linkage for developing countries to interact with liver experts. A big part of Sam's career now is his public health role in studying hepatitis infection in Canada's First Nations people. Sam started a hepatitis C echo telehealth program in Western Canada to allow Indigenous communities in remote areas to access treatments. This has greatly increased the number of First Nations and Métis people that have been cured of hepatitis C. Sam started the National HCV database. He is the chair of the steering committee, which includes 20 sites across Canada. He has organized provincial conferences to increase awareness of viral hepatitis in Indigenous patients and providers. However, Sam's not done yet. In the late stages of his career, he has become a Korean crooner. As a senior citizen, Sam decided to start a musical group that entertains at retirement and nursing homes. The vintage sound appeals to the older age group, and it brings great joy to their daily routine. And this is yet another of the many facets of Sam Lee, and emphasizes again his commitment to the community. Here they are performing at a conference in Calgary, which I was able to see them perform. Here's Sam at his best, practicing for the next gig. So in conclusion, we have Sam Lee, our gold medal winner in 2020. He's an outstanding medical research. He's a dedicated community outreach person. He's a team builder. He's a facilitator. He's a mentor. He's a father. He's a teacher. He has many outside interests in music, sports, travel, and the great works in literature. He's full of integrity, humility, and humor, and he's a great friend to me. So let's welcome the gold medal winner of 2020, Sam Lee.
Right. Thank you, Paul, for that lovely introduction. I'm glad you didn't point out some of the other things I've done, which luckily we won't mention today, except just in passing. For example, the time I had to force you to drive us to ski at Lake Louise because I got pulled over and had too many demerit points on my license. So we'll just skip that part. Anyway, could I have the first slide? As this is the title of my talk is Ars Longa Vita Brevis. And of course, those of you who know Latin, which of course is almost everybody because medicine is all Latin based in terms of terminology, it means the art is long, but life is short. So you can interpret that in many ways, but what I think it means is that no matter how old we get, we can still learn. And at my age now, I think I've learned a few things, many things from my mentors and teachers, other things I've picked up on my own. And next slide, please. Instead of the usual talk, which is basically summarizing, detailing all my research accomplishments over my career, I thought I would walk a little bit different path and tell you about things I've learned. So I would like to dedicate this talk and presentation to my family, which is the most important thing in life. And I'm not going to read all that out, but there you go. I have no disclosures relevant to this. Next slide, please. I will also acknowledge that I'm standing on traditional land of the Blackfoot and the people of the Treaty 7 region in Alberta. Calgary is also home to the Métis. Next slide, please. So as I've said, I've been in hepatology for about 4 decades almost, and I've learned a few things, good and bad. So as I've said, I'm not going to, we have written 3 recent reviews on cirrhotic cardiomyopathy, which I've listed at the bottom. You're welcome to go look them up. And there is a book coming, next slide, on cardiohepatology, which I have co-edited with a Japanese cardiologist, coming out in the fall this year. Next, please. So I've had a very unusual life trajectory, and this has started as a young lad in Korea and has actually, my life has wandered through several different parts of the world. And I think, or I hope, I've managed to pick up the good things from each part. There's a photo of me at the age of 1 in a Korean ceremony with my parents. And you can see that I'm clutching this small notebook in my hand. And the ceremony is that the baby is given a choice of 3 things that are set before him. One is money, the second is some kind of food object, and the third is a writing instrument or a book or something. So according to tradition, whichever thing the baby picks up first indicates his career trajectory, his or her career trajectory in life. So if the baby picks up money, you're going to be wealthy. If the baby picks up food, you're going to be healthy. If you pick up the book, you're going to be a scholar. Now, you would think normal parents would want their kid to be above all healthy, maybe wealthy second choice, scholar last. But I guess it's the old Confucian tradition or whatever. Most parents, certainly my parents, wanted the book. And my dad told me later, I did pick up the book, as you can see. But he said it's a very unbiased, or it's a very biased, it's not a randomized study because all the families around, and if the kid starts reaching for the wrong thing, everyone goes, ah, ah. So anyway, that's it. And I've ended up here in Calgary after stops in parts of the world. Next, please. So I would like to honor and tell you about all the people I've learned from in the course of my life and career. First, my family. Second, my colleagues. Third, even my trainees and students. I think I've learned as much from them as they've learned from me. And I will tell you in detail about the 2 major mentors and teachers in my life and career, and those are Jenny Hetkat and Didier Lebrec. So the first life lesson or career lesson is to persevere. And I bring this up because the whole field of cirrhotic cardiomyopathy was an area that a lot of people told me at the beginning it was just useless. It was a waste of time, epiphenomena, maybe it doesn't even exist. And after about 15 years of working in the field, almost as a lone voice, the world came to realize that cirrhotic cardiomyopathy is a real and significant entity. And then I thought, here's the perfect phrase from Victor Hugo to illustrate that turning point. And I show here 3 examples of people who've persevered against tremendous obstacles and odds. On the left, you see the far left, the couple sitting in the corner of the room. This is a photo taken in Tehran, Iran, several years ago. And that's my friend and collaborator, Professor Ahmad Reza Daypour from Tehran University, Department of Pharmacology. And he is doing really world-class research in the face of tremendous obstacles caused by an inability to access basic lab equipment and chemicals, but he's still overcoming that to do great research. Up top is my, in the black and white photo, you'll recognize a slightly younger Carla Coffin, of course, in that photo in the front row. But in the back row is one of my friends that she's already mentioned, Thomas Michalak. And again, Michalak, Thomas was much like me. The dogma was that hepatitis B, you have it, then you clear it, and it's gone. But Thomas persisted in the idea that persistence is a real thing, and it actually goes into a latent stage. And his entire career, that has been one of the main tenets of which, and he has demonstrated that, and the world has come to realize that he was right. And the bottom right is me with my main research associate and colleague, Professor Hong-Chun Liu. And Hong-Chun's story, I think, is also illustrative of the idea of persevering against tremendous odds. And that is that because of Mao Zedong's Cultural Revolution in China, and the fact that his family actually were bourgeoisie landowners in the past, that family was singled out for persecution by the government, and he was actually taken out of school. He was not allowed to go to school after junior high. So inconceivable as that may be to think of just some innocent kid whose only sin is belonging to a family that owned a bit of land, the fact that he's not allowed to go to school and just is deemed unfit to be a productive member, educated member of society, and his role in life will be just to work in the fields as a country peasant. And what Hong-Chun did was find the curriculum, find the books, study himself, find all the books they were using, and he did that for several years. And in fact, he compressed the entire high school curriculum into 9 months of concentrated study, wrote the university entrance exams, and got into university by that means. So basically, he taught himself all of high school successfully enough to pass a rigorous nationwide university entrance exam. And what a great example. But the inspiration for me, and the shining example of perseverance, resilience, and courage in the face of terrible adversity is my friend Connor McGuire. We go back, half a century, I guess. We knew each other as kids, and he was in medical school a year or two behind me, and he was practicing. He was a radiologist and was in Edmonton for 10 years or so, and then he moved back to Newfoundland about 8 or 9 years ago. But I just want to share with you the story of Connor. These are slides that he sent me from before the terrible trauma that befell his life. And how can you say this? Any gift that a person could receive, he got in superabundance. He was tall. He was really good looking. He was athletic. He was built like a Greek god. He played 3 or 4 musical instruments and played them well. He was really smart. And then one day, as a medical student, after first year, he went vacationing in Europe, completely fearless, of course. That was his general thing. He dove into the murky Rhine River, and there was a huge boulder just beneath the surface, which was invisible from the surface. And he struck his head on the rock and became quadriplegic and these are slides that he sent me, and he actually managed to finish medical school and residency training as a quadriplegic. I don't think anybody in the world, I could be wrong, but I don't think, certainly nobody in Canada has ever accomplished that feat. And these are some photos they sent me of he and his wife, lovely wife, and they have a daughter. Now they have grandchildren. And he got through medical school, did very well, made adaptations, and at present he's head of radiology at Memorial University in St. John's. So really, whatever adversity you think you've had in life, think about Connor. To have so much, to have such a huge, promising life, and to have 98% of that taken away at the age of 21 when your productive life is just starting. But to be able to overcome that, to persevere, to be resilient, to overcome that is just an amazing story. And it's always been a great source of personal inspiration to me. So I persevered, and in contrast, my idea or my example of persevering is relatively minor, but this is the first paper in cirrhotic cardiomyopathy, and I will draw attention to the fact that I misused the term cirrhosis, put in that self-redundant term liver in front of it, which now drives me crazy because cirrhosis only affects the liver. So saying liver cirrhosis, totally self-redundant, and we don't say, for example, lung pneumonia or kidney glomerulonephritis. So please stop saying liver cirrhosis. The word is just cirrhosis, period. Anyway, it was 1989. I was young and foolish. I didn't know the history of the word cirrhosis. And I, at the risk of hubris, I coined the term cirrhotic cardiomyopathy in that paper. And this is the paper that Paul Adams was referring to. It's the most cited paper. The first author is Zhenghua Ma, who goes by Michael now because his Chinese name was too hard to pronounce, but a fabulously gifted and productive young researcher. He's now a gastroenterologist in Calgary. But I like that paper because we started the paper with a great poem by Pablo Neruda. Everyone waxes on eloquently about the heart, etc. But to my knowledge, this is one of the few, if not the only major poem. It's called Ode to the Liver, written about the liver. This is only a part of it. It's a very long poem, but what a beautiful poem. And anyway, this is, I think, one of my proudest accomplishments. Okay, on to Jenny. Jenny received the many awards. Jenny was maybe one of the major giants of hepatology, global hepatology at the turn of the century. And I was fortunate to have Jenny as a teacher and mentor. And I was also very fortunate when she won the AASLD Distinguished Achievement Award in 2005. She asked me to introduce her, and Andy Bly, the editor of Hepatology, asked me to write this little summary about basically put my introduction of Jenny into a little article for Hepatology. And actually, I invite you to read it, not because I'm such a great writer or anything like that, but because the subject matter is so fascinating, so unique, so fabulous. Jenny was just, as you can see highlighted down there, she called herself an opportunist. And when I talked to her about the award, that's what she said. Really, I've had a good career, but I'm just an opportunist. And I thought, yeah, that's a tad bit of an understatement, Jenny. And you can see here, the world needs more opportunists like Jenny, but there's only one Jenny. So one of the great things about Jenny was she had these great aphorisms, and they would just come out spontaneously, and not just about hepatology or medicine, but about life. And she taught me so many things, and I call them Jennyisms. So for example, when I went to Paris and I was the stranger in a strange land, as the foreigner, and she, it may seem self-evident, but it was so apt and so true that she said, look, you're the foreigner here, you're the outsider. These people, they've already got their own friends. You have to take the initiative. You have to make the moves because they don't need you. You need them. Just another Jennyism is the first conference, ASLD, I went to, and Jenny made a point of introducing me to all the big names, big stars in hepatology. She said, this is a really good thing because when you meet the person and then you read the paper, it'll help you connect. Putting a face to the name will help you remember the content of the paper better. And she was right. Well, it was right, at least as far as I was concerned. It did help people remember the paper better. So at Jenny's urging, after I did my GI fellowship in Toronto, I went to work with Didier Lebrec in Paris, in portal hypertension. And I was a bit reluctant at first because I thought, oh, gee, it's a foreign language. I don't speak French. Can't I go work with Sheila Sherlock in London like you did, or some other unit in an English-speaking country? She said, no, Lebrec he's a rising star. He's good. He's clever. This is the place to go. And of course, Jenny, as almost always, was absolutely right. And I called Paris my movable feast. And it's after the Hemingway book. And the quote needs no explanation. But I learned so many things from Lebrec and from my time in Paris. So this is Lebrec, and this is the Beaujon Hospital where I was working for 3.5 years as Lebrec's research fellow. And the next couple slides I got from my good friend and fellow Lebrec mentee, Richard Moreau. And the slide's in French, but it needs no translation for English speakers. Just sang fois, excuse my horrible French accent, but it's literally cold-blooded, or somebody who doesn't panic, like super cool. And of course, all the other words you can figure out. Enseigneur, he teaches, he's a great teacher, results oriented, and of course, no white wine. Who knew that a lot of French people have a terrific bias against white wine. They consider the only pure form of wine to be red wine. And this is, Lebrec had so many fellows around, trainees, and every year for many years afterwards, he would convene a meeting or a dinner of the Beaujon alumni, the so-called Beaujon boys and girls at EASL or ASLD. And this is one of them, I think, about 20 years or so ago. And I can't begin to tell you all the things I learned from Lebrec about research, about life, but next, please. Oh, and I will mention that I had Lebrec visiting Calgary about 30 years ago, but at the time, I didn't know about the white hat ceremony for visitors. So I decided to correct that when this is his official retirement party from INSERM. And I got white hats for both he and my friend Richard Moreau, who'd also visited, didn't get a white hat. So made sure that he got duly recognized as one of the white hats. And people, I often get asked, well, how do you do research? What's involved in research? And really, I've condensed sort of years and years of exposure and training and learning from Didier and Jenny down to 4 simple things for being a productive researcher. Read the literature carefully. When you analyze the literature, you can figure out what the gaps in knowledge are or what the weaknesses in the literature are, and then think of and design a study that addresses that knowledge gap. And most important, write up the result without delay, because it doesn't matter what great thing you've accomplished in research. If the world does not hear about it, if you don't write the paper, it's like you never did it. It's the scientific publishing equivalent of the tree falling in the forest. So, as I said, Paris, you're a stranger in a strange land. I spoke the language very poorly, if at all. I still have the atrocious accent. Even my kids who are in French immersion make fun of my French accent. But I get by. I can communicate. Je me débrouille. Okay. So one of the first lessons I learned was tolerance, though, and there's an interesting story to that. The story is that just before I went to Paris, I was attending rounds in Toronto, sitting next to 2 of my teachers, Laurie Blendis and Jim Phillips, the liver pathologist. And Phillips had a Japanese postdoc research fellow working with him who was presenting. It was actually an AASLD practice talk. And his accent was so thick, it was really incomprehensible. Nobody in the audience could really understand a thing he was saying. And I said, is it just me, or is that I can't understand his accent? And Philip just shrugged his shoulders, said, well, read the slides. I said, is he presenting this at ASLD? Because no one's going to understand him. And Phillips made a comment which I didn't understand or agree with at the time. He said, it's important for his career. I said, oh, fine, okay, let him go and just be completely incomprehensible. And then I went to Paris, and I was in that position. I was the foreigner with the incomprehensible accent. I had to present at the French liver meeting. I arrived in January, and in October of that year, I had to present an abstract, a 10-minute presentation in French, of course. I was petrified, and I got through it. I think mostly people understood me. But I remember thinking that, my gosh, you know what? I will never, ever, I will always be sympathetic about being those guys that are a stranger in a strange land, don't speak the language fluently, because we are lucky, those of us who speak English fluently, or unfortunately English has supplanted Korean as my so-called mother tongue or native tongue, if you will. We are so lucky, and we should not take it for granted. We should try to be a little bit more tolerant of those people who have a funny accent, because if you or whatever, if they're something and you had to present a paper in Mandarin, let's see how well you do that. So that brings us to one of my favorite quotations in Latin, the motto of the International Chess Federation. So really, the human race is a fantastic diversity, and we should celebrate our diversity. But don't let that become, let's be inclusive rather than exclusive. I talk to everyone. I don't care what race, creed, religion, whatever they are. Gens unas unus. We are one people. So I talk to everybody. I collaborate with everybody. I collaborate with people who are mortal enemies of each other, Israelis and Iranians, Turks and Greeks, Japanese and Chinese, whatever. And the thing is this, just remember, a person is not a representative of their government. The person is not their government. You may not like the awful things that Japan did to Korea in the first part of the 20th century during 40 years of terrible occupation, but I have lots of Japanese friends and colleagues, and I should hold them in any way responsible for the sins 80 years ago or 110 years ago, etc. So, let's live by this motto that we are one people. Next, please. Next. Oh. And it's just a partial list of all the collaborators. And I would like to single out John Meddings, my current boss, Dean of Medicine at U of C, was my first collaborator, taught me about membrane biochemistry, biophysics. I kind of fake it, but I don't profess to understand it, certainly not nearly as well as he does. Keith Sharkey, a number of these people, Wayne Giles, I'll mention more about him later. And I'm grateful to have worked with so many outstanding, smart people. And generosity is another important lesson. And this was reinforced by the most surpassing act of generosity I have seen in academic medicine from Wayne Giles, who's a cardiac electrophysiologist. We collaborated on a couple of papers. And the second paper we collaborated on, his fellow at the time, Chris Ward, was the author on this gastroenterology paper from 20 years ago. And you'll see Wayne's name is nowhere on that paper because he insisted, he said, take my name off the paper. Chris needs to demonstrate independence from me. And I was shocked and at his act of surpassing generosity. And it worked. Chris is an independent, well-established researcher in cardiovascular electrophysiology. And there's one less paper that Wayne Giles, half the experiments were done in his lab, and he could have been the corresponding author of this paper, but he insisted on removing his name. So that's the next lesson. Surround yourself. A tip for success. So can we go back? Can we go back one slide, please? Surround yourself with good people. Here's my band. Not that I'm such a great singer, but I've got fabulously talented musicians around me. They make you sound good. That's the trick. And similarly, when Hung Chun and I ran the journal back from 2008 to 13, the trick was to surround yourself with really outstanding people. And this is a list of the associate editors from all 5 continents. And you can see they're all super accomplished, super smart people. And it was just the ship ran itself. I just guided it a little tiny bit. And I didn't have space to put everyone's photo, but I did put Martin Bindig's photo because everyone already knows all these famous names, but hardly anybody knows Martin. But Martin was the publishing manager, the liaison between the publisher Wiley and the journal or the editorial office. And Martin was so great. He was so supportive. So for that small fraction of you out there who run journals or editors of journals, that I think the key tip here is to get yourself a really, really good publishing manager. And I also want to give a shout out to my first boss in Calgary. He was the head of medicine. He recruited me, and Eldon Schaffer, and there's Eldon with his lovely wife. I call him the Gretzky, and of course we're all Canadian, so we know who Gretzky is. And Eldon's like the Gretzky because he's a team player and he makes others. Gretzky set up so many goals. He made other people look good or perform better. That's what Eldon did for people in his division, in his department. And I'm very grateful for his help and guidance when I started my career. And I will tell you that also, Eldon is a consummate leader. And I'll tell you this funny story. I think nobody will mind. Eldon won't. And I've told this story before in public, so I think John Meddings won't mind either. But John and I came on staff around the same time, late 80s. And one of the bugbears of our existence was this ceilings cap. At that time, the Department of Medicine had different, once you build up to a certain level, above that, the department or somebody kept most of the money. And we thought the ceilings were kind of low. And John and I discussed it, and we arranged a meeting with Eldon, who was head of medicine. And we walked into his office with, grim determination and righteous anger, determined to get our ceilings raised. And we had a 30 or 40 minute meeting with Eldon. A lot of points were discussed. There's a lot of discussion back and forth. And then we came out of the meeting feeling very happy. And as we stood there waiting for the elevator on the 9th floor, Department of Medicine office, after some reflection, I looked at John and said, wait a minute. Even though we walked out of the office thinking that we had won, I said to John, did we get our ceilings raised? And John said, no. You know what? No, because what happened, we went in there talking, the discussion evolved, and then eventually we ended up arguing Eldon's point for him, and that's what happened. And both of us kind of shook our heads sadly and thought, oh, there's the master at work. So, if you can run a division department like that, make people think they've won when they actually haven't, but feel good about it, that's the master. And I do, when I write review papers or summaries or editorials, I like to start off with some kind of quotation. And I learned this trick from Harold Kahn, and I want to acknowledge that. Unfortunately, Dr. Kahn has passed away a few years ago, but these are two examples. He wrote these fabulous editorials and review papers and summaries in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and he would always start off with some kind of fancy quote. So I just adopted that. And, okay, it's not for everyone, but good gosh, it certainly makes the writing more fun. So I do want to, one of the great tips is find a collegial workplace, fantastic colleagues. And these are my colleagues. Top right is my admin assistant, Patricia. The other are clinic staff, and you'll see the large photo is the group of hepatologists that I am fortunate enough to work with, and you'll recognize. And I don't need to name everybody, but of course we all know Mark and Kelly and Stephen, Alex, Bertus, Somia, Rob Myers. Somia and Rob have gone on to other places, and I'm missing about 3 of my colleagues who this photo is about 5 or 6 years old, but they are such great people to work with. And my gosh, if you can find a workplace where you get along well with your colleagues and you enjoy going to work every day, what a pure blessing that is. And it's important too. That's because one of my colleagues, there will be a few chuckles at this story, but they had to fill in suddenly when I grew ill acutely with gastroenteritis about 15 years ago, just before a morning clinic, and they did my clinic for me. And why was that? Because I was under the assumption that refrigerators are completely bacteriostatic, that if you keep it in there cold long enough, whatever, it'll still, there'll be no bacteria. And of course I was wrong. So the learning point here is that, sushi does not keep for 10 days in the fridge. Okay, maybe that's the most useful thing you'll learn today. Challenge dogma, a good point, which is what I tried to do. Thomas Michalak has tried, many people have done. I'm grateful to Morris Sherman for pointing out this particular piece of dogma, which still persists, and that is that a lot of people, and of course the fellows will all smile because I make a point of talking about this paper almost every viral hep clinic when we see a hep B patient. But the dogma is that in an adult, 5 to 10% of acute B is followed by chronicity, i.e. 5 or 10% just keep the surface antigen, just don't clear. And I don't know how that got entrenched as dogma, but it's been very hard to shake. And Morris pointed out this great paper by Len Seif, who did a follow-up of the 1942 hepatitis B epidemic in young American military men getting ready for the Pacific War. And 40 years later, when he tracked them down, there was a huge outbreak of acute B. And 40 years later, when he tracked them down, he managed to find 392. And if you think the chronicity rate is 10%, about 40 will be carriers. If you think it's only 5%, about 20 will be carriers. Guess what? There's only one carrier. That works out to a chronicity rate of 0.26%. That dogma should be busted. I don't know why it still lives, but there are still a lot of people that follow this misguided thing. But this is an example of the need to keep challenging dogmas. Next, please. And, if I can give a tip, check your ego, check your gun at the door, check your ego at the door. The world does not revolve around you. I know this, but really, I've seen so many instances of big names, big stars, people caught up in their own sense of self-importance. It's okay. You don't have to talk all the time. You can listen and observe once in a while. Be self-aware. Be considerate. And there are people that just ramble on endlessly at small group meetings or ad boards or whatever format. Look, let's be honest here. Even your mother doesn't want to hear you ramble on aimlessly for forever. Try to be concise. Brevity is the soul of wit. And the last thing, which I will try to adhere to and I go crazy about, don't go overtime when presenting anything. Research communication, small talk, whatever, lecture, keynote lecture, gold medal lecture. Going overtime means you're basically fundamentally selfish. Ikuya story, I won't dwell on this, but this is a typical consult request from about 30 years ago. And my colleague, Lauren Price, just wrote Ikuya and the chart walked away. And apparently the mystified fellow said, well, I don't get it. What does that mean? And Lauren said, I can't understand your abbreviation, otherwise known as UNA. Use no abbreviations. And it's one of the commonest faults in writing, scientific writing. There are way too many non-standard abbreviations. Serve the underserved. So this is why I am currently involved. Much of my clinical work is in Project ECHO. I also do a viral hep clinic with the refugee clinic. Yeah, remember the less fortunate, less privileged. Tip the hotel maid. They're always no matter what country you're in, they're always at the bottom rung of the ladder. And my brother Albert said, yeah, do it the first morning, because then you get like this immaculately clean room the rest of your stay. So pay it forward. This is Project Echo, and two of the main stalwarts on the Kainai Reserve, Dr. Sue Christensen and Bonnie Weasel Moccasin, the nurse there, and some colleagues at AHS. And I was given this eagle feather by an Indigenous person who I helped cure of his hepatitis C, as well as his brother. And it was a very meaningful present to me. Apparently, my spirit animal is the eagle, and it's actually the most precious gift I've ever been given. So, yeah, that was that was my main motivation for starting this project, Echo. Don't waste your gift. Andy Blais in the left, Jean-Pierre Benamou on the right, Bobby Fischer. In 2008, all three people died, and I thought two of them were so exemplary, maximized their gift. Andy Blais, probably the most beloved man in hepatology at the time, because he never spoke ill of anybody. He was such a nice man. Jean-Pierre Benamou, you can read my little editorial about the passing of these three people. That Benamou was just this fabulously gifted clinician, but he was funny, he was witty, and he was so nice that even when you blurted out the wrong answer, which I occasionally did at liver rounds at the Beaujon in front of like 150 people, you didn't feel bad. It was such a great learning environment. Bobby Fischer, unfortunately, after becoming world champion in 1972, just went basically crazy, became virulently anti-Semitic, anti-American, even though he was American, and even though his mother is Jewish, which means that apparently he's Jewish. But anyway, I think he wasted his gift. Time flies, so seize the day. I mean, it just seemed like yesterday my three boys were just tiny at their own little, the twins' first year one ceremony, and then look at them now. They're all well over 6 foot. Poor shrimpy dad is like, actually, I hate to admit this, but I was standing on tiptoe when that photo was taken because I didn't want to make it look like I was like shoulder height to them. Do not procrastinate. I always procrastinate. This is a terrible, terrible character flaw. Please don't do that. Please, I procrastinated doing this talk, as the organizers know. I prepared the last slides this morning, even though I'd been thinking of it for 2.5 months. Try to have a work-life balance, because I did not do this, and my personal life did not go the way that I would have wanted. And I think it's because I let work overwhelm life, and we should stop calling it work-life balance. It should be called life-work balance, because life has to take priority. So find some hobbies or some activities or whatever. Next, please. And friendships. I asked friends all over the world for photos, and I got millions of them, and I'm very sorry I couldn't show those, just a cross-section of them. But my gosh, that's one of the great joys of being in academic medicine, having so many great friends all across the world. And it's okay to joke around, but that's not everyone's style. And you don't always have to joke around. And sometimes you have to know when to stop joking. And sometimes that has failed me. So I end with these little editorials I wrote for Liver International, and I've highlighted two, I think, that you should read. I will close by saying most of the things I've been talking about are contained in these pieces, and otherwise I hope I have imparted a few pearls of wisdom. And again, I thank everybody very much. I am extremely humbled and proud at the same time to receive this award. Thank you. Thanks for your attention.
Well, thanks, Sam. That was fantastic. It was really, I've known you for a long time, so it was touching to see you clearly very touched by the award and so deserving of it for all of the wonderful things you've contributed to Canadian hepatology and to all of us. I know you took this seriously because I think it may be the first time I've seen you in a tie, but thanks again for being here, Sam. And let me ask everyone to virtually join me in wishing Sam. We would normally be giving you a standing ovation, I'm certain, and I would just like to honor that tradition and give you a little round of applause. But thank you, Sam, for everything, and congratulations again. And we are going to move on to the closing with some other awards. And so I want to just a brief reminder that Sam clearly exemplifies all the qualities of the CLF CASL Gold Medal Award. And we actually have nominations are still open for the 2022 CLF CASL Gold Medal Award. So you can visit the CASL website on the awards page there for more information on the award and to put in nominations. And we encourage you to do that. It really, it's important that we make sure that we recognize people. And it's important also to know they don't have to be Canadian. It's great to recognize our Canadian hepatology stars. And we certainly, gold medal can also go to international leaders in hepatology. So I now want to officially segue into the 2021 CASL Awards ceremony, and I want to thank everyone for staying online with us right until the end of the meeting. I know it's been a long time of hopefully Zoom or online fatigue, but people have hung out and hung with us, so thank you for that. It's important, especially in this what's been a very difficult year where we don't get to see each other and celebrate each other, that we do take this opportunity to honor and celebrate and congratulate our colleagues and recognize the excellence of our members and others in the hepatology community. So thanks everyone for staying, and it's my honor to introduce this award ceremony and to present a few of the awards. And to start us off, I'm excited and really quite honored to present our first award, the 2021 CASL Distinguished Service Award, and really can't think of a better person to receive this award. This is awarded to a CASL member in recognition of their outstanding contributions to CASL and to the field of liver disease in Canada. And this year's recipient definitely exemplified these requirements in every way. It's really because of his dedication and continued efforts that CASL has grown in many ways to the organization that we are today. Under his leadership and really because of his persistence to ensure that we had equitable involvement of our colleagues and our partner organizations, particularly CanHepC and the Canadian Association for Hepatology Nurses. In 2018, under his leadership, we established the Canadian Liver Alone meeting, and really, I think we can now say with certainty the premier forum for hepatology education in Canada. And during his term as president of CASL, he also worked with U of T Press to establish the Canadian Liver Journal as our official publication, which again, really an important achievement for our society. And now we're on the cusp of PubMed indexing, and really, again, a testament to his leadership. And he also really reached outside of CASL and reached out to partner organizations, making strong connections with AASLD, with ALE, and with the American Association of Hepatology, or sorry, the Mexican Association of Hepatology. And these continue today, as we saw in our North American Viral Hepatitis Elimination Summit. There were also many other things that he did during his tenure. He helped establish CASL to be an accreditor for the Royal College, which has been a great innovation for the organization. We've seen our membership growth, and he also reestablished our annual single topic conference, and that was done earlier, or just last month, this year, which was fantastic and helped us to really build beyond the single annual meeting every year. So of course, most of you will know that I'm referring to Rick Schreiber, who served as CASL president from 2016 to 2018, and is really absolutely worthy recipient of this award. So, and I can say personally, Rick's been a great mentor to me. He really has a great vision for what CASL can and should be. He's a great leader, thoughtful, he listens, and then really takes a strong leadership role to make sure we're moving in a trajectory which is always putting the organization first. So please join me in congratulating Dr. Richard Schreiber from the British Columbia Children's Hospital as recipient of the 2021 CASL Distinguished Service Award.
Well, thank you very much, Jordan. I actually thought this award were for yogis, those in the sunset of their career. I know I have a lot of gray hair, but I didn't think I was that old. But seriously, I'm deeply honored to receive this award. It means a great deal to me. Now, back over 10 years ago, CASL was faced with both financial and existential challenges. And at the time, as a pediatrician, I was reminded of the phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child." In this case, a community to nurture CASL. My philosophy then, as it is today, is that CASL should be the central address for everything liver in Canada. That our CASL home should be the largest of tents, a tent that would include every Canadian with interest in the liver, be it healthcare providers, researchers, fellows, student trainees, corporations, other societies, and of course, our sister organizations, the CLF, CanHepC, or CON. It was my firm belief that CASL should be an association that encourages inclusiveness and diversity and engagement, while also looking outwards towards national and international sites to foster collaboration and collegiality. These indeed were the key drivers that set the framework to expand CASL and develop many of the initiatives that are now in place and you so kindly have spoken about. But be assured, none of these would have happened without the help, the support, and the plain old hard work of the CASL memberships. You and you and you and you, everybody here in the audience. And here I want to give a special shout out to Jordan, to Mark Bilodeau, to Abby Renner, Peter Galley, Chris Rose, Heyman Shaw, Kelly Burak, Eric Yoshida, and of course, Maureen and the team at Buxa. Many of the initiatives that CASL has done and brought us to where we are today would not have been possible without your dedication and energy. I also like to thank my Division of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition at UBC and at BC Children's, in particular, Orly Gutman, for their support. And of course, I'd like to thank my beautiful and energetic wife, Cheryl, for her ongoing support and encouragement and love. Please know that my involvement with CASL has been one of the most rewarding and enjoyable volunteer experiences in my life. It is truly a terrific association, as you heard from Sam Lee, with wonderful people, many of whom have become close colleagues and friends. I encourage each and every one of you, especially the younger amongst the membership, to get involved, be engaged, volunteer your time. It will well be worth it. The returns will be more than you can ever imagine. So Jordan and the executive, thank you so much for this award. It will be cherished, and I'm honored. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Rick, and congratulations again. And let me echo those words to those who aren't or have not been involved in CASL. We're always looking for new, whether young or older, at any point in your career. We're really grateful for the volunteer efforts that people put into this organization, and Rick's leadership has been really critical to the success, and I think really strengthening the organization. And just thank you again and congratulations. I'm going to move on to the next award. Fortunately, should be presented by Eric Yoshida or Natasha Chenuk, but unfortunately neither of them were able to do this today. So I'm standing in their stead, but I just want to make it clear that this was their initiative, and I'm just presenting on their behalf. So as an organization, we have a history of recognizing scientific accomplishment and outstanding service both to Canadian hepatology and also to CASL itself, as well as honoring really excellent in education and teaching. And these are recognized through a number of awards that we give out. You've seen a few of them today, the CLF CASL Gold Medal, the SAS Cortac Lecture today, which we saw a great lecture from Ron Sokol earlier today, the CASL Distinguished Service Medal that Rick just received, and the Castle Education Award, which we'll hand out shortly. But it's important to recognize that as an organization, we are not living in isolation from the broader world. And it's important that we keep that in mind and think outside of Canadian hepatology and outside of CASL. And I think this year has really, with the COVID-19 pandemic, has brought really to light that systemic racism and bias continue to be a major problem in society. There continue to be issues with gender bias and gaps, prejudice related to sexual orientation, to religious intolerance, and many other problems. And one of the things to try to address this is we established the CASL Equity and Diversity Committee this year. Organization, we examined that well. But one of the first acts of this committee that's been led by Natasha and Eric, it was to develop the CASL Humanitarian Medal. And this medal will serve to recognize CASL members and others who have conscientiously dedicated themselves towards improving society at large in a way that both transcends and elevates the profession of medicine and the practice of hepatology. And I would like to just say a little bit about the medal itself, and thank you to Eric for making this possible, but it's an original creation by an internationally recognized Indigenous artist, Ms. Susan Point. She's regarded as really one of the preeminent Indigenous artists in British Columbia and works in the Coast Salish tradition. She's an officer of the Order of Canada, was invested as a Chevalier des Arts et des Lettres, Knight of Arts and Letters by the French government, and her work is displayed in galleries and museums around the world, and she's graciously given CASL an original design for this medal. And it was a unanimous consensus of the CASL committee that the governing board of CASL that the medal be named in perpetuity after its inaugural recipients. And so the two people received this are both people that I have a very personal relationship with. They've both been mentors, and I now consider them to be close friends. You heard about one of them in Sam's talks, Jenny Heathcote, and the other is Victor Feynman. Both Doctors Heathcote and Feynman were respected faculty members at University of Toronto, and really made notable pioneering academic contributions to Canadian hepatology and in major contributions in research and teaching. But it's also their contributions outside of medicines that separates them, and it will be part of their professional legacy. And Sam sort of gave us a bit of insight into Jenny, and I know that just like she touched his life, she certainly touched mine and my career and shaped many of the things that I do and think about. And I think Sam was right about the Jennyisms, which often come back into my head as I think about things. But Jenny was really an incredibly tireless advocate for so many things in her career. She started as an advocate for women's rights and continued that throughout her career. She was the recipient of the Canadian Medical Association May Cohen Award in 2003, and at our hospital at UHN, she received the Global Impact Award in 2015, which is a really remarkable achievement. She was the first hepatologist, actually the first gastroenterologist to receive that award. She's been really a fierce opponent of systemic racism and bias, and Sam talked about it, and I've seen it in action when Jenny, you upset Jenny, be careful. But early in the years, particularly as HIV and AIDS was being recognized before the development of new medications, there was a huge amount of bias and prejudice against people living with HIV. And Jenny was actually one of the first physicians to really stand up and say that this is unacceptable. And she would not only see these people and treat them, but really spoke out very strongly about the importance of physicians not showing prejudice or bias against, at the time, what was homophobia was much more of was much more prevalent, and Jenny stood strongly against that and spoke out strongly against it. And I think that's something that was not really related to her field. These people didn't necessarily have liver disease, but she recognized their humanity and spoke out for them. And that's something that she always has really imparted to all of her students, which I was fortunate to be one of. she has also stood strongly against militarism and nuclear armament. She's really stood out and spoken out for a lot of things that really have nothing to do with medicine, but it just speaks to the quality of human that she is, and that's one of the reasons that she is being recognized for this award, and it will be named in her honor. Victor Feynman is probably the only person who, or maybe one of the people who understands from personal experience the evil of government-instituted racism and religious intolerance. He was born in eastern Poland, in what's now part of Ukraine, and Dr. Feynman and his family were unfortunately forced to live under Nazi rule when the country was invaded during the Second World War, and he suffered physical deprivation and abuse during his period. He and his brother were imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp and witnessed the execution of other prisoners and faced death until they were able to escape. In his later years, Dr. Feynman gave testimony to the horrors of the Nazi Holocaust in a 3-hour video at the Shoah Foundation. He's also spoken about his experiences to the Canadian media in the hopes that we make sure that this type of atrocity never occurs again by speaking about the importance of acceptance and really trying to prevent ongoing racism and prejudice that continue, unfortunately, to poison our world. So in honor of their contributions, the CASL Equity and Diversity Committee, and on behalf of CASL, applauds our inaugural recipients that you see here and looks forward to applauding future recipients. So please join me in honoring Dr. Jenny Heathcote and Dr. Victor Feynman, the first recipients of the Heathcote-Feynman Humanitarian Award, named in recognition of their tremendous contributions to social justice and humanitarianism. If we can just, I guess, give although they're not here, just give, or they may be online, a brief round of applause for their contributions. So with that, and that award will be given out, not necessarily every year, it will be given out to when the committee recognizes that someone in our field has stepped outside of our field and made contributions worthy of that medal. The next award that I would like to present is the CASL CLF Visiting Professor Award, which is presented to a CASL member who is an outstanding individual and excellent communicator in the field of hepatology, who has an interest in clinical, basic science, or transplant or translational liver disease research. This was established to try to make sure that we enabled researchers to travel around the country and for our trainees to get exposure to really some of the top-notch research that we have occurring in our country. So the award recipient will deliver a minimum of 4 state-of-the-art lectures at centers across Canada during the award tenure and participate in undergraduate and postgraduate liver education. Hopefully this will be in person, but this year, unfortunately, it was virtual. And I'm particularly excited to announce this year's winner, who's a leader in cirrhosis research and care within the Canadian hepatology community. She's really a pioneer in implementation of measures to improve quality of care and patient outcomes. And some of you may have seen Punita's presentation earlier today, but really no better person than to be Punita Tandon from the University of Alberta to be the recipient of the CASL CLF Visiting Professor Award. And I'll just ask her to come on stage very briefly, say just a short word.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It was such a surprise when I got the email. So, and a super honor, and I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to go around and talk to friends and colleagues around the country and discuss our learnings that we've had from the work that we've been doing, and obviously to make some new collaborations. And so the lectures will focus on enhancing cirrhosis care and the work that we've been doing as part of a provincial initiative to do that with an electronic order set and a website. And so I want to just put in a plug for the website, cirrhosiscare.ca. If all of you could have a peek at that and even send any feedback, that would be wonderful. And thank you so much again.
Thanks, Punita, and we're all looking forward to your lectures this year. And if anyone, if you're interested in having Professor Tandon visit your site, you can find information about that on the CASL website. It's also in the newsletter, or you can contact us so that we can arrange for her to have a visit during the 21-22 academic year, which we really hope will be in person. And now I'm going to pass it over to our Education Committee Chair, Dr. Carla Coffin, to do the next presentations. But before I do just want to briefly recognize Carla for all of the outstanding work that she's done for CASL over the last 3 years. She's been the chair of the Education Committee, and this is a huge amount of work. I think many of you recognize that there's a lot of work in planning this meeting. Carla's also introduced a number of educational activities throughout her tenure, from webinars to working with ASLD, working with the CLF, a number of other events that she's developed, and in addition, leading the HPV Special Interest Group. So we're grateful for all the huge efforts that Carla's committed to the organization, and want to thank her again for all of her contributions and ask her to do her last role as the CASL Education Chair to present this year's Education Awards. Thanks, Carla.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. It's been a pleasure and an honor to serve as the CASL Education Chair. So I'm delighted to announce the 2021 Education Excellence Award winner. The CASL Education Award recognizes an individual who demonstrates exceptional scholarly activities, leadership in medical education, and involvement in implementation of educational programs. And I'm sure everybody will agree that this individual is well deserving, Dr. Mang Ma from the University of Alberta. So Mang is a hepatologist and a professor of medicine. He received his medical degree and completed internal medicine, GI and hepatology training, and a fellowship from the Alberta Heritage Foundation at the University of Alberta. He has a background in hepatitis B molecular biology and actually inspired me to form the Canadian Hepatitis B Research Network. He's won numerous awards, including teaching and as well as gastroenterology Teacher of the Award at the University of Alberta. So please join me in congratulating Mang for this award. Okay, so I will next move on to announcing the CASL CLF Clinical Fellowship Award recipients. So the first recipient is Dr. Daljit Chahal, who's completing final year of GI fellowship training at UBC and will be undertaking hepatology fellowship training at Mount Sinai in New York. We have Dr. Simone Kortbeek, currently at the University of Calgary, and will start fellowship in pediatric hepatology at Sick Kids in Toronto. Dr. Derek Little, who's studying at the University of Toronto and will start hepatology fellowship at Western University. And Dr. Sarah Wang, who is currently a fellow at the University of Alberta and will stay there to undertake additional hepatology training. So I'd like everybody to also join me in congratulating these deserving recipients.
Everybody, I'm Daljit Chahal. I'm currently at UBC in Vancouver. I'll be pursuing my fellowship at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. I'm very grateful to CASL and the Canadian Liver Foundation and look forward to my training.
Hi, my name is Simone Kortbeek. I am finishing up my Peds GI training in Calgary this year, and next year I'm heading off to the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto to do a year of hepatology and liver transplant training. I'm super excited, and thank you very much for the opportunity and support for next year.
My name is Derek Little. I will be pursuing a hepatology fellowship at Western University with the support of CASL and the Canadian Liver Foundation. I look forward to learning about everything from fatty liver to acute liver failure in the hopes of becoming a busy, community-based hepatologist.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Wong, and I'll be starting my hepatology fellowship at the University of Alberta. I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I look forward to helping patients with chronic liver disease. I hope we can all meet together in person soon.
So on behalf of the CASL Education Committee, I'd like to thank our industry funders who support this year's fellowship program, including AbbVie, Gilead, Novo Nordisk, and Paladin Laboratories. And finally, I would like to hand things over to the Research Committee for the next award presentations.
Thanks very much, Carla. I'd also like to just take the opportunity to welcome and congratulate Sam Lee and Punita for their awards. Excellent, and looking forward to seeing Punita in person sometime in Montreal. Maybe it'll be the first stop. So first up, we have two awards to give out today. The first one will be the Castle Research Excellence Award, which is presented to a Castle member in recognition for their exceptional research in the past year, so 2020, and is selected based on the significance and impact of a specific publication from the past calendar year, as I just mentioned, 2020. So on behalf of Juan Alvarez, my co-chair, and the rest of the committee, it's my pleasure to announce that the 2021 Research Excellence Award goes to Jennifer Fleming from Queen's University in recognition for her article, which was titled Outcomes of Pregnant Women with Cirrhosis and Their Infants in a Population-Based Study, which was published in Gastroenterology, which you know is a very prestigious journal, in this past November in 2020. So Dr. Jennifer Fleming joined the Faculty of Medicine at Queen's University in 2014 as a member of the Division of Gastroenterology. She completed medical school at Dalhousie University and completed internal medicine and gastroenterology training at Queen's University. She then spent 2 years at the University of California, completing substantial subspecialty training in hepatology and liver transplantation, as well as obtaining a master's degree in advanced clinical research. Dr. Fleming is a clinician scientist with 70% of her time protected for research activity. Impressive. She's a member of the Cancer Care and Epidemiology Group at the Cancer Research Institute at Queen's University with a cross appointment to the Department of Public Health Sciences. Her health services research program focuses on the epidemiology and natural history of cirrhosis, hepatitis C, and primary liver cancers. In addition to a robust research program, Dr. Fleming serves as a Castle member of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee and as the chair of the Castle Guidelines Committee. So please join us on congratulating Jennifer on this exceptional publication and excellent work. Next up is the 2021 Castle PSC Partners Canada Award, which is awarded thanks to a generous donation from PSC Partners Seeking a Cure Canada. The award recognizes the best research on PSC presented at CLM and provides support for expenses relating to the presentation. So if you're working on PSC, this is a great award to keep in mind in future years, since the award provides support to help offset costs for article publications in the Canadian Liver Journal, for example. This year, we were fortunate to have several excellent abstracts that were submitted to the meeting. And ultimately, the research committee is thrilled to present the 2021 award to Dr. Bilal Jubran from the University of Toronto, who is recognized as primary author on the following abstract, which was presented earlier today during the oral abstract session number 3. Hepatolithiasis is a frequent and prognostic finding in patients with primary sclerosing cholangitis. Dr. Jubran is a gastroenterology fellow at the University of Toronto. He completed his internal medicine at the University of Calgary, and prior to that, attended McGill for medical school. Bilal is interested in a wide scope and practice of gastroenterology, but does have a special affection for liver disease. To that end, he is engaged currently in several research projects, including those centered on improving our understanding of primary sclerosing cholangitis. Bilal hopes to use his clinical and research potential to help patients and their families who struggle with liver disease to receive meaningful and compassionate care. Congratulations, Dr. Jubran, and watch your inbox for further communications on our office for concerning the award.
Thanks for hanging in there, everyone. So the last award is actually something that this is a first for this. It's just a specific award for this year. Many of you will have been fortunate enough to participate in a virtual lecture with Dr. Morris Sherman, who is coming to the end of his time as the 2020 Castle CLF visiting professor. And if you haven't, there's still time. We've still got a few months to go actually in his time, so you can let us know if you would like to arrange that. But today we actually wanted to recognize Morris with a different honor. Given his substantial experience in hepatology and his leadership in the Canadian hepatology community, the editorial board of the Canadian Liver Journal was delighted to appoint Morris as the honorary editor of the journal. So please join me in congratulating Morris on this honorary appointment and on his retirement last year. Many of you will know, and Morris will be mailing you a small token of thanks in recognition of this appointment. So congratulations again, Morris. So now we come to the end. So that's the end of the award ceremony and really the official end of the Canadian Liver meeting. Despite it being a crazy year. It's been great to see everyone, I guess, sort of see everyone from across the country, and to try at least to come together on screen to support Canadian hepatology. I think we've put together really an outstanding meeting. We had great attendance this year. This was actually our best attended Canadian liver meeting with 624 registrants. And one of the cool things about having it virtual is that we also attracted international attendees from 15 countries from around the world. So it was our best attended CLM and most. In addition to our great turnout, we had some innovative aspects of this year's meeting. I think we had a really nice collaboration with the AASLD to put on the first North American Viral Hepatitis Elimination Summit for the first 2.5 days of the meeting that highlighted really progress towards elimination and how disparities are getting in the way of that in many ways, but suggesting solutions to overcome those challenges. And it was, a great honor to have the Nobel Prize winners and to honor the Nobel Prize in Medicine being awarded for the discovery of hepatitis C, with Harvey Alter and Michael Houghton presenting at the meeting and hearing those great poems from Harvey. We had a great couple of days discussing all aspects of viral hepatitis elimination, from basic science to public health, and we also had great oral and poster sessions from our trainees and faculty, and really spectacular invited lectures from across Canada and around the world. Today, we've moved on from viral hepatitis with great presentations on other aspects of liver disease, which were really fantastic, and some really excellent abstracts presented by many of our trainees and faculty. And before everyone logs off, I just wanted to say a few thank yous and a couple of reminders. So the first is a reminder that this is an accredited program, so it's very important that we receive your feedback on the meeting. This helps us, of course, plan future conferences, and it also ensures that the program content meets everyone's learning needs, and it's also important for our continued accreditation. So please complete the evaluation form, really quite critical. The certificates of attendance will be mailed out in a few days after the meeting for those who participated in the live sessions. And then I do want to say a few thank yous. First, big thank yous to our moderators, speakers, and to the audience. It was really nice to see. One of the nice things about the virtual meetings is we're able to actually see who's attending what. And we had really good participation, excellent attendance at the sessions. And I would really like to thank particularly the moderators for managing the few hiccups that we had, which are sort of the technical realities of living with a virtual meeting. It's a little stressful for all of us. We never know when those things are going to happen. And I would like to specifically thank the moderators for rolling with the punches, including even having an impromptu Zoom session for one of the abstract presentations today. Hopefully that will not be necessary next year. I would like to express a special thanks to our the partner organizations and the leaders of those for helping to put on the meeting, particularly to CON, the Canadian Association of Hepatology Nurses, and specifically to Donna and Danae for their contributions to developing the program, to CanHepC, Brian Conway and Naveed Janjua, and of course to Norma and Nagla for continuing to guide CanHepC and doing this as a group effort. A big thank you to ASLD. I already mentioned that we did this partnership for the viral hepatitis elimination, but a thank you specifically to John Ward, Anna Locke, and Nora Turow, as well as the whole Viral Hepatitis Elimination Task Force who contributed to putting together the program. And a big thanks to Melissa Dickey from Katie and Sue Wong from the World Hepatitis Alliance, who put together our community partners and community voices sections of the program, which I think were really nice to have community involvement at every step of the meeting. And also to the conference planning committee members, and particularly to our education committee, as well as to Carla, the education chair, for putting together the program for the rest of the meeting. And then a big thanks to our MCI team, Adina, Alize, and Megan, who have worked tirelessly to make sure this happens. And in addition to having very good turnout for the meeting, they've also made sure that we that we were able to get good support from our sponsors to support the meeting. And it is a stressful thing for them as well to move to this virtual world, and they've managed to do it. And thank you for all of your efforts, because I know it hasn't been easy for you, and we appreciate everything you've done to try to keep us on track. And the meeting went generally very well with very few hiccups along the way. Thank you to our partners at the Canadian Liver Foundation and to all of our other community partners for contributing to the meeting. And also I want to express a personal thanks, a huge thanks to Maureen in the CASL office. She really helps us do absolutely everything at CASL leading up to the meeting itself. And she really just is an instrumental part of the day-to-day workings of the organization. So thanks again, Maureen. And then finally, before I close, I want to again thank our sponsors. We could not do this meeting without their support. This has been an unusual year, and they've stood by us and supported us incredibly well. And just to quickly remind you of the sponsors, at the platinum level, we had AbbVie and Gilead. At the silver level, Lupin and Novo Nordisk. At the bronze level, Astellas, Deep Genomics, Eisai, and Intercept and Roche. And our friends and sponsors as well, Alexion, Altimmune, Arbutus, KNS, McKesson, Novartis, Paladin, and Specialty RX. And with that, we're a little over time, and I apologize for that, but thanks for hanging in. And I will officially call the Canadian Liver Meeting 2021 to a close. Next year, I hope we will see each other all in person. All the best. Take care.